What's going on, people? It's me, Cole Jackson, back with another STEM clip. Now, with the recent release of Travis Scott's Before the Rodeo dropping on streaming, I got super inspired and I thought I would go do a video to talk about 5 essential mixtapes that should be on streaming right now. There are a lot of mixtapes out right now that can't be on streaming currently because of sample clearancing or ownership rights, so on and so forth. But I want you guys to join me on this trip of 5 essential mixtapes I think should be on streaming right now. So let's start off with the obvious one. This mixtape was a classic from day one. Everybody loves it. I've never heard anybody talk bad about it. It is Frank Ocean's Nostalgia Ultra. Came out February 16th, 2011. Now, this was the mixtape that launched Frank Ocean's career, and it's considered one of his best projects. Now, me personally, I'm a Channel Orange kind of guy, but that's neither here nor there. Nostalgia Ultra is credited with changing the way the R&B genre is done. Blended traditional R&B with modern sounds. Like, you couldn't tell me that this was not thinking 3 steps ahead of everybody else at the time. It just has so many different elements of like R&B, pop, soul, electronic music, all that stuff. It was all of those things production wise with smooth vocals. I feel like it's one of his better ones. Again, I'm a Channel Orange guy, so but this was it. This was the one that put him to the moon. And to this day, people still praise this mixtape. Now, you had tracks on there like Novocaine, of course, Love Crime. I think it was Nature Feels and American Wedding. All of those were standout songs on this mixtape. But if you want to hear something that has a traditional sound, that has traditional R&B vocals with more modern production, you need to go back and listen to Nostalgia Ultra. I feel like this would be a great mixtape to be on streaming right now. It's essential because it was Frank Ocean's vision of what R&B could look like in the future. Lo and behold, he was right. So the next mixtape is one where we got to see the street side of someone who we don't even see that part of them anymore. But this was one of my favorite mixtapes from this artist. It's Nicki Minaj's Playtime Is Over. This was Nicki's 3rd mixtape. It released April 18th, 2008. This was the mixtape to show Nicki's lyrical dexterity. She was really in her bag on this one. I think this is one of the better ones. I know everybody's talk about Beam Me Up Scotty. I personally feel like this is just as good as Beam Me Up Scotty. This was the mixtape where we got street Nicki. We got to hear her cocky persona. This is a very New York centric mixtape. Like, it is East Coast heavy. She's confident in her raps. She's super gritty on this mixtape. You couldn't tell me she wasn't ready to be a star after listening to Playtime Is Over. It's just one of those mixtapes where she showed everybody that she could lyrically hang with other people. She got in a whole lot of different pockets. She was in her bag again. This is the Nicki Minaj I like more than the album Nicki that we get now. I mean, I just think this is when Nicki was hungry. Her sound was completely different from her being famous and, you know, hitting triple, quadruple platinum on a lot of her albums. This was the Nicki Minaj that I fell in love with. This was the Nicki Minaj that I thought was couldn't be touched. Now, there are some standout tracks on here that I like Can't Stop, Won't Stop with Wayne. I think Wayne did a phenomenal job on here too, but it was mixtape Wayne at the time. The song Playtime Is Over was good, and the Click Clack song, that was amazing too. So those are some of my favorite tracks off that album. The mixtape is pretty much important because it put Nicki in a situation where you could tell she belonged with other lyrically sound artists, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like her lyrical ability on this album was way better than it has been in a long time. Not to take anything away from current Nicki. I don't want the barbs to jump down my throat, but this Nicki felt different. This Nicki was 10 times better than album Nicki. This next mixtape is probably one of the most underrated when people start talking about the best mixtape or start having that best mixtape conversation. Rich Gang, the Tour Part 1, came out September 29th, 2014. This was a showcase for Rich Homie Quan and Young Thug. I'm going to say right now, their chemistry was unmatched. Like, it felt like they had been rapping with each other for a while. You can tell me if they would have stayed a group, I think they would have been selling like a shit ton of albums. This was basically showing us what the sound could be, especially when you got mixture of like trap, hip hop, and like melodic rap. Like, you could tell like this is one of those mixtapes that kind of just showed us what the future was gonna be. And you got to realize, Rich Homie Quan and Young Thug both went on hella 5 runs after this mixtape. Like, their careers both went up after this mixtape. It feels like Thugger kind of sustained his career after this a lot more than Rich Homie Quan. Don't get me wrong, Rich Homie Quan is still a great rapper, but he ain't on the level of Thugger. But this mixtape was a complete showcase of 2 of the most anticipated artists at the time. Like, nobody talks about that. People had already heard rumblings about both of these 2 artists, and them doing a mixtape together. People were waiting for them to get out here and actually put out music. You can't tell me this is not one of the better mixtapes that came out that year. It's too good. But nobody talks about it. Like, I don't understand why it doesn't get talked about enough. Now, there are a few standout tracks that I enjoyed off of here, like I Know It, Flavor, Tell 'Em, and 730. Those are the standout songs off that mixtape for me. Rich Homie Quan, Young Thug, their chemistry was unmatched. This mixtape was important because it was a strong representation of what the Rich Gang sound was going to sound like. And it gave, you could kind of hear the ability to make like catchy ass hooks with like high energy ass beats. Like, they blended that shit together and it ended up becoming a sound for a long time, especially for Thugger. This next mixtape was a reason why this artist got signed. Well, this one, and I think it was Guess Who's Back. But 50 Cent is the future. This mixtape was released June the 1st. It was 50's second mixtape, but it was the first one with G Unit. This mixtape got the attention of Eminem. This was one of the people say. So the story goes that that Eminem heard Guess Who's Back, and that's what got 50 signed. I heard the story as he heard both of them. He heard 50 Cent in the future and Guess Who's Back, and that's what got Eminem's attention to sign 50. If I'm being honest with you guys, like, the sound is so New York. It's very New York. It's gritty. This was a showcase for Lloyd Banks and Tony Ayo, probably more Lloyd Banks than anything. If you listen to this album, Lloyd Banks gets his shit off on here. 50 does too. 50 comes with the cockiness, but Lloyd Banks come with like the real like lyrical ability. Like, he comes in on a lot of those songs and just kills the shit. It just felt like the East Coast. It just really felt like the East Coast. And 50 was so cocky on this motherfucker. Like, you couldn't tell 50 he wasn't already signed on here. Lyrically, he was sound. Again, Lloyd Banks showed his ass on here. Tony Ayo did what he had to do. I just think it was just a great showcase for what G Unit was going to be in the future. Some of the tracks on here that stand out is the Banks Workout, the Clue/50 song, and Bad News. This was a great mixtape because it's 50 Cent and G Unit. It just shows how big of a force they were going to be in hip hop. And again, this, from what I understand and from what I read, this was one of the mixtapes that got 50 signed to M. So when people talk about mixtape classics, when people talk about undeniable classics, this mixtape often comes up. J. Cole's Friday Night Lights. It came out November 12, 2010. This was the bridge between J. Cole's mixtape career and going into his commercial career. This was the mixtape where Cole had a lot of social commentary. He had lyrical depth, and he had very introspective songs on here, believe it or not. And again, it was a mixtape. Everything that he rapped on this mixtape, I literally resonated with. Like, it was one of those mixtapes where you felt like it was relatable. Like, I felt like I could still talk to, like, I just felt like I knew J. Cole, like I went to college with him or some shit. Like, That's how relatable that mixtape was. Um, Tons of fans always say that this is his best work to date. I don't know if I can say that, but it does resonate as a classic mixtape when you think about mixtape history. This is like the holy grail. I don't think anybody could have couldn't done what he did with this mixtape. And think about the production he had with Elite, Omen, Bank. He even got a song with Kanye West. Kanye West produced one of his songs on here. It ended up coming out on Good Fridays, but I think they ended up putting it on here as a bonus track. Unbelievable. I don't think I've ever heard this type of quality in a mixtape as well. Like, it sounds crisp. The production is very well done. Like, it's just a very great put together mixtape, which understandably makes it a classic. It is a classic mixtape. It is up there when you want to put tears up, when you want to put like what the bar is. J. Cole's Friday Night Lights is the bar. So some of the standout tracks on here is Back to Topic Freestyle, Vilmatic, The Autograph, SeaWorld. Those are major tracks on here. But if you ask me personally, I don't think there's a skip on here. I don't think there's a skip on this whole mixtape. This should be on streaming because this is the mixtape that defined J. Cole, who he is, defined his lyrical ability. It defined his sound. It showed how he could resonate with his fans. It just made him a man of the people. It's a classic mixtape for a reason. It's probably one of the best sounding mixtapes I had ever heard in my life too. So here's the recap. Here are the 5 essential mixtapes that should be on streaming right now. Frank Ocean, Nostalgia Ultra. Nicki Minaj, Playtime is Over. 50 Cent is the future. Rich Gang, The Tour Part 1, and J. Cole, Friday Night Lights. All of these are great mixtapes. All of these should be on streaming right now. I think these mixtapes help define a lot of these artists' sound. I think these mixtapes actually help understand who they were going to become later on, especially when it came to big time stars. These mixtapes put a lot of people on and got them their deals. So why not have a new generation discover what we love so much about a lot of these artists when it comes to their mixtapes? We don't get mixtapes anymore, so we might as well go ahead and inspire some new generation of artists with some of these old mixtapes. Do you have a mixtape that you think should be on streaming? Let me know in the comments. Tell me what mixtape you feel like should be on streaming right now and give me a reason why. And I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.